All right, everybody, welcome back. We're gonna get into aircraft procedures right now. If you're following along in your book, we're in STP manual. It starts on page 20. If you're following along in the Skydiver's information manual, we're starting in section 5-6. Let's talk about the types of aircraft that we're gonna be using. Some of the aircraft we use are the caravans, like the one that's right behind me. Other aircraft that we use are twin otters. When we approach the aircraft, we want to make sure that we're always approaching from the rear of the aircraft, paying special attention to stay away from the props. The props are spinning really fast a lot of times, and it's really, really difficult to see them. Even when the aircraft are shut down, we should be paying special attention not to walk through the arc of where the prop is going through. When approaching the aircraft, it's important that we protect our handles. Let's cover up our hacky. Let's cover up our emergency handles as we're climbing up the aircraft and walking into the aircraft to get seated. Once we get seated, let's be expeditious about finding our seat belts. Depending on the aircraft that we're in, we might be putting our seat belts through our harness or our leg strap, or we might be wrapping the seat belt around our waist. Also remember that seat belts are not just our responsibility as a jumper, it's also the pilot's responsibility. So keep that in mind when you're taking your test. Seat belts must be fastened upon boarding and stay fastened all the way until 1,500 feet. That also goes for our helmets. Let's make sure those are on our heads and buckled as well. Let's talk about aircraft emergencies now. There's a chain of command when it comes to aircraft emergencies. The pilot is going to tell me, the instructor, who's going to tell you what needs to happen at that particular time. If we're below 1,500 feet in an aircraft emergency, we're going to ride the airplane down. So let's double check, make sure our seatbelt is securely fastened, and be ready to ride the airplane all the way to the ground. If we're above 1,500 feet, do you guys remember why that's an important altitude? You should. At 1,500 feet, the pilot might tell me, hey, we need to get out of this aircraft. At 1,500 feet, we're going to bail out. And do you remember which parachute you're going to use? Yeah, if you guessed that you're going to use your reserve, you're correct. If we get above 2,500 feet, the pilot's going to give me a command and say, hey, I need you guys to bail out of the aircraft. I'm going to pass that command on to you. When you bail out of the aircraft, do you remember which parachute you're going to use? If you answered that you're going to go to your main, excellent, great job. If we get above 5,000 feet, we're going to treat that exit like a normal hop and pop exit and be ready to land somewhere safe. All right, the next thing that I'm going to talk about, we're going to talk about pilot chutes out in the aircraft. Let's think about this for a second. In the summertime, we like to open the door at 1,500 feet. What are you going to do if you see a pilot chute go out the door? What if it's your pilot chute going out the door? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. If I see my pilot chute go out the door, I'm going out after it. I'm going to double check my handle just to make sure that it was actually my handle that came out. And that's that first scenario. The next scenario, if I see my friend's pilot chute go out the door, he's not my friend anymore and he shouldn't be your friend anymore either. We're going to kick him out of the airplane. All right. If you see a pilot chute coming past you and going out the door, get out of the way. And by get out of the way, I mean get out of that airplane and get a parachute out. Let's just say you see a pilot chute hit the floor close to you and it hasn't got out of the aircraft. Do your best to contain it. If the door is open, let everybody know to close the door, close the door, close the door. Don't be silent about it. Yell about it. There's a pilot chute out, there's a pilot chute out, there's a pilot chute out until everybody has your attention. Next thing we're going to talk about, let's talk about spotting. We've enjoyed our airplane ride all the way up. We're about to get out of this aircraft. On your recurrency skydive, you may be instructed to handle spotting. Spotting is basically we're sticking our head out the door, we're making sure that we can see the drop zone and making sure that there's nothing in the way to impede our skydive. Think about your cloud clearances. You might want to study that chart. Those are some important things that you might see on your recurrency test. Cloud clearances can be found on page 22 of your STP manual and in section 4D of the Skydiver's information manual. Think about other things that you need to be looking for as you look out of the airplane. Other skydivers, aircraft, hazards that may impede our skydive. Another thing that we need to consider when spotting is the ground speed of the aircraft. Ground speed is a pretty simple calculation to make. We're going to take the airspeed of the aircraft, let's just say 90 knots, and we're going to subtract what the upper winds are doing. Let's just say 50 knots to make it a nice easy number. We're going to take the airspeed minus the wind speed, and that should get us at a nice round number of 40 knots. Ground speed is an important calculation because that's going to tell us how much separation we need to leave in between groups. The faster the ground speed, the less time we need in between groups. The slower the ground speed, the longer we need to separate ourselves between exits. Think about checking your winds aloft report so you can more accurately predict what the ground speed of the aircraft is going to be. All right, that covers the airplane ride, getting all the way up to when we exit the aircraft. So now we got to go on a skydive. For you licensed jumpers that are getting recurrent, expect that you're going to do a dive flow 15, also known as your A-license checkout dive. The A-license checkout dive is a pretty easy skydive. You need to do a comfortable exit. We need to see alternating 360s, so a 360 left, a 360 right. We want to see a backflip. We want to see a docking maneuver from at least 20 feet away. You need to be able to break off on time and pull at your assigned altitude. For students, if you haven't completed the program or you haven't gotten all the way to your A-license checkout dive, you're going to be asked to repeat your last passing skydive, whatever that skydive was. If any of these topics seem unclear, consult your instructor first and foremost. Definitely study your STP manual and maybe dig a little bit deeper into the sim. If you have further questions, consider writing them down so you don't forget, or maybe leave a question in the comments section of this video. Thanks again for your time. That's it for aircraft procedures. We'll see you in the next section.